a simple mistake, a kind stranger, and a journey that teaches more than just travel. It teaches life. Ready to learn English through a story that speaks to the heart? Hi everyone, welcome back to LMJ English. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found us. On this channel, we help you learn English through meaningful, emotional, and real-life stories. Today's video is going to take you on a flight, literally and emotionally. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. New lessons, new emotions, and new expressions every single week. Discovering the magic of shadowing. Have you ever heard someone speak English so clearly, so smoothly, that you wished you could sound just like them? Maybe their words flowed like music, natural, confident, and expressive. That's not just talent. That's rhythm, pronunciation, and intonation working together. And you can learn it too, with a technique called shadowing. Shadowing is like walking beside someone on a sunny day. Wherever they go, you go. Whatever they say, you say. It's more than just repeating words. It's becoming the echo of a native speaker. You listen closely to every syllable, then speak right after, mimicking the tone, speed, and feeling of their voice. It's a powerful way to train your mouth and ears at the same time. At first, it may feel awkward. You might stumble or fall behind. But that's okay. Just like learning to ride a bicycle, your balance and control improve with practice. And each time you shadow a sentence, you're not just learning English, you're embodying it. You're building real fluency from the inside out. In this story, you'll do more than read. You'll experience. You'll feel what Sarah feels, speak what she speaks, and understand English through her journey. With every word you repeat, you'll take a step closer to the confidence you've always wanted in your English voice. So take a breath, relax your shoulders, get ready to shadow your way into a story full of lessons, not just for language, but for life. A dream takes flight. For as long as she could remember, Sarah had imagined this moment. The giant airplanes, the buzzing airport energy, the adventure of stepping into a new country. All of it felt like a scene from a movie. And now, standing in the middle of the departure hall, ticket in hand and heart racing, she was no longer just a dreamer. She was a traveler. She held her passport tightly, as if it might fly away. In her other hand was her boarding pass, freshly printed and still warm. Seat 17A. A window seat, her favorite. Her eyes lit up. There was something magical about watching the world shrink below you. Cities turning into toy blocks, roads into silver lines, and clouds into soft pillows floating in the sky. That tiny number on her ticket meant she could sit beside the window and take it all in. As she walked up to the check-in desk, a friendly airline staff member smiled and greeted her. "Here's your boarding pass. Have a good flight." Those simple words made her chest swell with joy. She was really doing this, flying to New York City, the place of dreams, bright lights, and endless noise. Her first time overseas, her first solo flight, her first real step into the unknown. But not everything was smooth. The security line moved like honey, slow, sticky, and frustrating. She stood there, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, checking her phone, then her watch, then her boarding pass again. 100 tiny worries floated through her mind. Did she pack everything? Would she understand the announcements? What if she got lost in New York? But each time anxiety knocked, excitement answered louder. Finally, after what felt like forever, she was through. Gate 23 appeared ahead like a small victory. She found a seat near the window and sat down, the boarding pass now slightly wrinkled from being clutched so tightly. Outside, planes lifted off the ground like giant birds, disappearing into the sky. She imagined herself up there soon, flying above the clouds. Then, the announcement came. Flight 567 to New York is now boarding. Her heart skipped a beat. This was it. No more imagining, no more waiting. She picked up her bag, stood tall, and walked toward the gate. Each step felt like walking into her future, into something unknown and exciting and unforgettable. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know that this flight would teach her something unexpected. But in that moment, with her boarding pass in hand and a dream in her chest, Sarah was ready. The seat that wasn't hers. The moment Sarah stepped onto the plane, it felt like she had entered another world. The cabin was filled with the soft rustle of newspapers, the low hum of conversation, and the occasional thud of luggage being pushed into the overhead bins. She clutched her boarding pass like it was a map to a treasure. Seat 17A, the window. Her favorite. Her reward. As she walked slowly down the aisle, her eyes scanned the seat numbers, her heart picking up speed with every step. Row 14. Row 15. Almost there. Row 17. Her gaze shot straight to the window, but instead of finding an empty seat, her face froze. Someone was already there. A man in a navy blue jacket sat comfortably in what was supposed to be her seat. His head rested gently against the window, eyes lost in the view outside. The sunlight poured in, casting a soft glow on his face. He looked relaxed, peaceful. He didn't seem like someone who had just stolen a seat. Sarah stopped in the aisle, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. Had she read her ticket wrong? She looked down. 17A, no mistake. This was definitely her spot. She stood still for a moment, unsure of what to do. The cabin behind her began to fill up, and the pressure of the narrow aisle made her feel like the walls were closing in. She took a breath, then leaned forward politely. "Excuse me, sir," she said, trying to keep her voice calm and respectful. "I think this is my seat." The man turned to look at her, slightly startled. His eyebrows rose as he reached into his jacket and pulled out his boarding pass. "Oh," he said, puzzled. "Let me check my ticket." He unfolded it, eyes narrowing in concentration. Mine says 17A2. Now Sarah was really confused. She pulled out her own boarding pass and held it up, as if offering proof to a judge. "Mine says 17A as well," she said, a little firmer this time. The man looked at her ticket, then back at his. For a split second, it was silent. Then he smiled. A warm, gentle smile. Not the annoyed kind, not the "I don't care" kind. It was the kind of smile that disarms tension. "You know what?" he said kindly. "It's totally fine. You can have the window seat. I'll take the middle." She blinked, surprised. "Really? Are you sure?" "Absolutely," he said, shifting his bag and sliding over without hesitation. Sarah's heart softened. She didn't expect kindness, not like this. She had prepared herself for an argument, for awkwardness, maybe even a call to the flight attendant. But instead, she was met with generosity. She sat down slowly, carefully, touched by the man's gentle nature. "Thank you," she whispered. As she settled in, she glanced once more at him. He was already looking straight ahead, unbothered. No bitterness, no frustration, just peace. She turned toward the window, where the sky stretched endlessly into possibility. The engines began to hum. The plane was getting ready to fly. What she didn't know was that the story of the seat was far from over, and the lesson it held would unfold in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The truth in the aisle seat. The plane soared above the clouds, a soft hum filling the cabin like a lullaby. Sarah sat comfortably in her window seat, gazing at the white sky outside, lost in wonder. The world below was disappearing, and the world ahead, New York City, was getting closer with every passing minute. She had dreamed of this view for years, and now it was finally hers. Beside her, the man in the middle seat sat quietly. He wasn't fidgeting or sighing. He wasn't looking uncomfortable or annoyed. In fact, he seemed perfectly at peace. Sarah stole a glance at him from the corner of her eye. How could he be so calm after giving up his seat so easily? Most people would have protested or at least looked irritated. But not him. His patience was impressive. Just as she was beginning to relax, a soft, polite voice tapped into the quiet bubble of her thoughts. "Excuse me," said a flight attendant, standing beside their row. She wore a pleasant smile and held a digital tablet, her eyes shifting between Sarah and the man. Sorry to interrupt, but there seems to be a small issue with the seating. Would you mind showing me your boarding pass? Sarah blinked, her heartbeat quickening. Sure, she said, reaching into the front pocket of her backpack. She handed it over, suddenly hyper-aware of everything. Her breath, the way the man beside her looked up, the hush of the engines. The flight attendant glanced at the ticket, then looked up at the numbers above their row. Ah, she said gently. There's been a little mix-up. Your seat is actually 17C, the aisle seat, not 17A. Sarah's heart dropped. What? She whispered, stunned. But I thought. Her eyes darted to the man next to her. In that moment, everything made sense. The polite confusion, the way he checked his own ticket, the smile when he let her take the seat. He had been right all along. I am so sorry, Sarah said, her face burning with embarrassment. She felt small, like she had taken something that didn't belong to her. You were supposed to be here. I didn't mean to take your seat. The man let out a quiet chuckle and shook his head. It's really okay, he said, his voice calm and kind. The middle seat's not so bad. But to Sarah, it wasn't okay. Not because he had made her feel bad. He hadn't. But because his kindness, his patience, had shined a spotlight on something she hadn't seen in herself. She had been so certain she was right, so quick to claim what she thought was hers, and yet she was wrong. Carefully, she unbuckled her seatbelt and moved over to 17C, the aisle seat. Her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted her bag on her lap. The view was gone now. No more sky, no more clouds. But something else had arrived in its place, a quiet understanding. She looked over at the man again, this time not as a stranger in her way, but as a teacher she hadn't expected to meet. Thank you, she said sincerely, her voice lower, more meaningful. Not just for the seat, but for being kind. He smiled. It's just a seat, he said casually. But hey, next time, maybe double-check your ticket before you fight for the window. He winked, and they both laughed. The tension melted, replaced by something simple and human. A shared moment. A gentle lesson. Sarah leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes for a moment. She had come to America to see a new world. But even before landing, she had already discovered something far more valuable. A reminder that being wrong doesn't make you weak. Refusing to admit it might. And kindness. Kindness is the quiet strength that changes everything. The lesson in the clouds. The hum of the plane continued steadily, a soft, rhythmic sound that echoed through the quiet cabin. Sarah sat still, her seatbelt gently pressing across her lap, but her thoughts were anything but still. They spiraled gently through everything that had just happened, through the mistake, the moment, and the man beside her who had chosen patience over pride. She replayed the scene in her mind. The seat confusion, her certainty, his quiet surrender, and then the truth. It was her mistake all along. And yet, instead of feeling small, she felt expanded. There was a strange warmth in the realization that being wrong wasn't the end of the world. In fact, it was the beginning of a better understanding. That man, he could have argued. He could have embarrassed her or insisted the flight attendant fix the situation. But he hadn't. His kindness had turned a misunderstanding into something much more meaningful, into a quiet life lesson, offered without judgment. Sarah realized then that mistakes are not roadblocks. They are reminders. Reminders that we're human, that we're still growing, that there is always room to pause, reflect, and choose grace. She thought about how often we protect ourselves with certainty, how we rush to be right, afraid of looking foolish or weak. But in truth, there's nothing more powerful than saying, I was wrong, and meaning it. It takes strength to let go of pride, and sometimes it takes only a few gentle words from a stranger to show us that strength. This moment on the plane, this mix-up over a seat, had become a mirror, showing her not just her mistake, but her opportunity. An opportunity to grow, to choose humility, to understand that even in error, there is value. And maybe, she thought, that's how real learning happens. Not in perfect conditions, but in imperfect moments handled with care. Then, her thoughts drifted to her English journey, to all the times she had hesitated before speaking, the moments she had mispronounced a word or forgotten a phrase. How many times had she felt embarrassed or wanted to give up? But now, something felt different. She saw the connection clearly. Language learning is just like life. You stumble. You get things wrong. You doubt yourself. But each time, if you keep going, you grow stronger. The courage to try matters more than the fear of failure. And every mistake is not a sign of weakness. It's proof that you're pushing your boundaries. Just like she had done with the window seat. She turned her head slightly toward the man beside her. He was resting now, eyes closed, arms gently crossed. She smiled, a quiet, grateful smile. He hadn't just shared a seat. He had unknowingly shared wisdom. As the plane flew on, slicing through layers of soft gray and golden light, Sarah made a promise to herself. She would keep learning. She would keep speaking, even when she wasn't sure. She would keep traveling, through cities, through sentences, through self-discovery. Because some of the best lessons don't come from a classroom or a textbook. Sometimes, they come from seat 17C, learning the language of travel and life. With the plane steadily gliding above the clouds and her heart beginning to settle, Sarah reached into her backpack and pulled out her little blue notebook, the one she had carried for weeks, filled with vocabulary lists, travel tips, and dreams scribbled in between grammar rules. It had been her study companion, her comfort zone. But today, something was different. Today, English wasn't something she studied. It was something she lived. As she flipped open to a fresh page, she wrote a title across the top in bold. Real English. Real moments. Then she paused. What had she actually said today? What phrases had turned into lifelines when things got confusing, awkward, or emotional? She remembered the very first moment of tension, standing in the airplane aisle with her ticket in hand. "Excuse me, this is my seat." She had said it with as much politeness and courage as she could muster. It was a small sentence, but it had opened a big conversation. It was her voice stepping into a situation, not to argue, but to find clarity. She underlined the phrase in her notebook and added a note. Use it calmly when something seems wrong. Always pair it with kindness. Next, she recalled the man's soft, non-threatening reply. "Let me check my ticket." Such a simple phrase, yet it was disarming, peaceful, and respectful. It didn't create conflict. It invited cooperation. She smiled as she wrote it down. This is a golden phrase when you're not sure. It shows maturity and grace under pressure. Then, she thought back to the beginning of her journey at the check-in counter. The woman behind the desk had handed her the boarding pass and said, "Have a good flight." What a lovely phrase. Warm, short, and full of hope. It was one of those phrases that felt like a smile turned into words. Sarah wrote it down slowly, imagining herself saying it to the kind man next to her, or maybe even to the flight attendant. Use this to wish someone well before they begin their trip. It makes the world feel friendlier. She began to list more expressions, some she had used, some she had heard, but all of them now carried meaning. Don't worry about it. A phrase full of forgiveness. The man had said it with a smile, and it had made her feel seen and safe, even after her mistake. Use this to comfort someone who's apologizing. Mistakes happen. The words that gently erased her embarrassment. They didn't excuse her, but they reminded her she wasn't alone. Everyone gets it wrong sometimes. Say this to yourself, too, especially when learning. Enjoy your trip. Simple, generous. The phrase the man used as they prepared to land, spoken not out of obligation, but with sincerity. Use it to show genuine kindness to someone you may never see again. Her pen moved steadily now. She wasn't just collecting phrases, she was collecting experiences, emotions, connections. And then, she created a new list. Essential travel vocabulary. Words that had once felt like flashcards now felt alive. Boarding pass, the ticket that lets you enter the plane. Today, It had felt like her first step into a new life. Window seat slash aisle seat slash middle seat. She smiled at this one. Who knew seat positions could lead to life lessons? Security check, the part that tested her patience. But also the part where she realized travel teaches more than just geography. Gate, more than a number. It was a space of anticipation where dreams sat quietly, waiting to fly. She looked down at her notebook, now filled with lines and reflections, and something clicked inside her. This was the kind of English she had always wanted to learn. Not just the kind in textbooks or exams, but the kind that helps you through real situations. The kind that carries kindness. The kind that connects you to people. Because when you learn a new language, you're not just learning how to say things, you're learning how to feel things in a new way. How to apologize. How to offer comfort. How to listen. How to laugh at your own mistakes and keep going anyway. She closed her notebook gently and looked out into the aisle. The flight was almost over, but her journey with English, her journey with herself, was just beginning. And it was already beautiful. The journey that speaks beyond words. The plane touched down with a gentle bump, and a ripple of movement passed through the cabin. Passengers gathering their things, seat belts clicking open, and tired smiles exchanged as if to say, "We made it." But for Sarah, the moment wasn't just about arriving in New York. It was about something deeper. She sat quietly, her notebook still on her lap, and watched the city lights glow through the airplane window. Skyscrapers blinked in the distance like stars fallen to earth. Somewhere beyond those buildings was Times Square, the Statue of Liberty, all the things she had imagined. But right now, what filled her heart wasn't excitement about tourist spots. It was a quiet sense of growth. She thought back on the flight, not the scenery or the snacks, but the story that had unfolded in her very own row. A simple misunderstanding had become something extraordinary. A moment of embarrassment had transformed into a mirror, showing her not just her mistake, but her capacity to learn, to feel, to reflect. And all of it had happened in English. It hadn't been perfect. Her voice had trembled. Her confidence had wavered. But she had spoken. She had listened. She had connected. That was the real success. As the aisle slowly began to clear, Sarah stood, gathered her things, and turned to the man beside her. "Thank you," she said one last time. But it wasn't just for the seat anymore. It was for the lesson, the grace, the unspoken kindness. He gave her a simple nod and a smile that said, "No problem." And just like that, they stepped into the bustling world of arrivals and goodbyes. The airport buzzed with languages from all over the world. Families reunited. Travelers rushed past. Announcements echoed overhead. And Sarah walked among them, no longer just a passenger, but a learner, wiser, braver, and more inspired than ever before. She knew now that learning English is not just about mastering words. It's about embracing the moments in which those words come to life. It's about navigating real conversations, real emotions, real situations. It's about finding the courage to speak, even when you're not sure. About being open to correction and still moving forward with confidence. So to every learner listening to her story, she would say this: keep going. Make mistakes, and make them proudly. Because every misstep brings you closer to fluency. Every correction is a gift. Every sentence you speak is a seed planted in your future. Don't chase perfection. Chase connection. Because one day, like Sarah, you'll realize that language isn't just a skill, it's a bridge. A bridge between strangers, between cultures, between who you were and who you're becoming. The journey is long. The path is sometimes messy, but every word you learn is worth it. So breathe in courage. Breathe out doubt. Pick up your notebook. Open your heart. And walk boldly into the world of English, with all its wonder, all its beauty, and all its power to bring people together. Because this isn't just language. This is life. And your journey is only just beginning. If this story touched you or helped you learn something new in English, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Your support helps LMJ English keep creating more meaningful, emotional, and useful content for English learners around the world. Subscribe to join us on this learning journey. 20 key vocabulary, repeated throughout. Boarding pass, a document or digital ticket that allows a passenger to enter the plane. It shows flight details and seat number. Window seat, a seat located next to the airplane window, often chosen for the view outside. Aisle seat, a seat next to the aisle of the plane, making it easy to get up or move around. Middle seat, the seat located between the window seat and the aisle seat. Check-in desk, the counter at the airport where you show your ticket and receive your boarding pass and luggage tags. Gate, the area in the airport where you wait before boarding the plane. Security check, a screening process where airport staff check passengers and their belongings for safety reasons. Flight, a scheduled trip on an airplane from one destination to another. Flight attendant, a member of the airline crew who ensures passengers' comfort and safety during the flight. Seat number, the assigned number and letter combination, e.g., 17A, that shows where a passenger should sit on the plane. Excuse me, a polite way to get someone's attention, often used when correcting a situation or asking a question. Let me check my ticket, a useful phrase to politely verify travel details, often used when there's confusion. Have a good flight, a friendly phrase used to wish someone a pleasant journey on their airplane trip. Don't worry about it, a comforting phrase that tells someone it's okay and there's no need to feel bad about a mistake. Mistakes happen, a reassuring expression that reminds people it's normal to make errors. Apologize, to say sorry for doing something wrong, often to show respect or kindness. Kindness, being generous, friendly, and considerate to others, especially in uncomfortable situations. Patience, the ability to stay calm and understanding when things don't go as expected. Embarrassed, feeling uncomfortable or shy, especially after making a mistake or misunderstanding something. Confidence, the belief in your abilities, especially important when learning to speak a new language like English.